The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity, inspired by Catherine Ponder, written and published by Audible Aria. There comes a time in life when we are forced to confront the reality we've built through years of thought, belief, and habit. For Catherine Ponder, that moment came after personal tragedy, a time of great emotional and financial loss. Widowed, untrained for work, and responsible for a young child, she was thrown into a world of scarcity she had never imagined. It would have been easy to resign herself to a life of struggle. Many do. But what followed was not surrender. It was discovery. In the midst of despair, Ponder uncovered a truth that defied everything she had once accepted. The power of our thoughts is greater than any external circumstance. She realized that the mind is not merely a passive observer, but an active force, shaping experience moment by moment. And when the mind is consciously directed toward prosperity, the world responds in kind. She named this approach prosperous thinking. Prosperous thinking is not about wishing or hoping for better days. It's the deliberate, focused, spiritual practice of aligning one's mind with abundance. Choosing to see life not through the lens of lack, but through the radiant possibility of good. It is the internal acceptance that peace, joy, health, and wealth are not reserved for the lucky few. They are available to anyone willing to claim them. From this foundation came the birth of a philosophy that would change not only Ponder's life, but the lives of thousands. As she began to teach these principles, the results were often immediate, and nothing short of miraculous. A secretary received a raise within days. A stockbroker landed a six-figure client after months of stagnation. A department store saleswoman outsold every one of her colleagues, despite a negative, fear-filled atmosphere. A struggling business owner who couldn't collect on a long overdue payment finally saw the debt resolved. After changing nothing but his thoughts, people from all walks of life began to share testimonies. They weren't winning the lottery. They weren't chasing hustle culture. They were simply changing the way they thought, and life began to mirror their new inner reality. These stories are not exaggerations. They are what happens when the human mind tunes into the natural laws of the universe, the laws that govern abundance. What Ponder came to understand is that poverty is not noble. It is not a spiritual badge of honor. Poverty distorts. It depletes. It weakens the mind and spirit. When people suffer lack of money, opportunity, love, or health, it often leads to anxiety, illness, depression, even crime. Poverty is not the will of a loving God. It is a condition born from blindness to the good that is always available. So then, what is the truth? The truth is that you are not meant to struggle endlessly. You are not meant to live in fear of bills, dread of the future, or regret of the past. You are meant to flourish. You are meant to succeed. You are meant to rise into the fullness of your potential, not only spiritually, but mentally, physically, and financially. To desire prosperity is not to be greedy. It is to be in harmony with your nature as a child of divine abundance. And yet, so many people resist this truth. Deep down, they still wonder if it's okay to want more, to want money, comfort, or success. They feel guilty for seeking a better life, as if doing so would somehow betray their faith. But the sacred texts tell a different story. The Bible, often misquoted as a book of self-denial, is in fact filled with the language of wealth, abundance, and supply. The heroes of her faith, Abraham, Joseph, Solomon, Jesus himself, understood that divine partnership included the meeting of material needs. Jesus fed multitudes. He gave wine at a wedding. His robe was of such quality that soldiers cast lots for it. These were not the actions of a man ashamed of abundance. When Jesus spoke of giving up riches, it was not to condemn wealth, but to highlight the importance of spiritual ownership. He wanted us to possess our blessings, not be possessed by them. Ponder explains that the confusion around prosperity largely stems from historical misuse of religion. In feudal societies, the idea of poverty as virtue was weaponized. The rich told the poor it was holy to suffer, so they wouldn't rise up. That lie has lingered for centuries. But now is the time to release it. Prosperity, she says, is your divine heritage. It's your spiritual birthright. And there is no conflict between living a prosperous life and living a spiritual one. In fact, the two should be united. A person grounded in spirit and walking in abundance is not only empowered, they are positioned to bless others. But what does this look like in practice? It begins with the mind, your thoughts, what you believe, what you affirm, what you expect, are the channel through which prosperity flows. That's why your inner dialogue matters more than your paycheck. It's why some people with little education or background succeed beyond measure. Because they think differently. They see opportunity. They speak in terms of plenty. They refuse to accept defeat. One prosperous thought, firmly held, is more powerful than 1,000 thoughts of lack. When you affirm abundance, not out of desperation, but with calm certainty, you begin to draw into your life the things, people, and conditions that match that frequency. Try saying, I am the rich child of a loving Father. I now accept and claim His rich good for me in every area of my life. You may feel awkward at first, but speak it anyway. Let it settle in. Let it replace the doubt and fear you've been carrying for too long. Prosperity is not a lottery ticket. It is a law. And when you work with it, life works with you. You will notice things start to shift. Bills get paid. Opportunities open. Ideas flow. You meet the right people. Why? Because the world responds to inner certainty. When you move in faith, doors open. This is not about magical thinking. It's not about wishing without action. It's about aligning your thoughts with the truth of your worth, and then taking steps from that place of power. So if you've lived with lack, forgive yourself. If you've believed that money is bad, release that belief. If you've hidden your desires under a veil of guilt, bring them into the light. You are not here to merely survive. You are here to thrive. That is the shocking truth about prosperity. Chapter 2. The Basic Law of Prosperity. There is a spiritual rhythm to prosperity that echoes through every successful life. It is not loud or flashy. It is subtle, but firm, like the pull of the tide. Catherine Ponder came to know this rhythm not through theory, but through necessity. In the darkest season of her life, newly widowed, raising an infant, and facing a future without income or training, she was forced to confront life's deepest questions. And what she found was a truth more powerful than any external help. The law of prosperity begins within. At the core of this law is a principle so simple, most overlook it. Yet it governs every act of abundance in the universe. You must give before you receive. The energy you radiate, your thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and intentions, becomes the magnet for what you draw into your life. This is not wishful thinking or a clever metaphor. It is a law as consistent as gravity and as demanding as it is rewarding. This is the law of radiation and attraction. Ponder saw this play out in her own story. Once she grasped this truth, that she had to project prosperity through her mindset and actions. Doors began to open. She worked her way through business school. She became secretary to an influential attorney whose practice flourished. Eventually, she found herself stepping into a calling she never expected, teaching others how to align with abundance. But what changed? It wasn't luck. It wasn't someone else saving her. It was the deliberate choice to think, feel, and act in harmony with the prosperity she desired. Too many people today still hope for abundance without first planting the seeds. They want something for nothing. A harvest without sowing, a return without investment. But this approach defies the spiritual laws of life. Emerson called it the law of compensation. The Bible teaches it as the principle of sowing and reaping. Scientists know it as action and reaction. Whatever the language, the truth remains. What you send out comes back. Ponder shared the story of a desperate widow who had no food for her children and no money to buy it. At first, the woman cried, "But I have nothing to give." That's how most people feel when they're in a tight spot. But there is always something you can give. Your time, your kindness, your faith, your intention. Encouraged by a counselor, the widow looked around and noticed flowers blooming in her yard. She picked a few and delivered them to a sick neighbor. She then set her table with her finest linens, expecting a meal she had no way of providing. Within hours, a long-lost debt was repaid to her. Exactly the amount she needed to feed her family. The moment she gave, the moment she radiated love and faith, she triggered the law of return. You don't need to start with wealth to receive it. What you need is a mindset of generosity and expectancy. You start where you are, with what you have. The spiritual substance of the universe flows through channels you create by giving, no matter how small. This law applies in every area: business, relationships, creativity. A man who longed for a particular out-of-state client tried everything to land the account, but nothing worked. Finally, he turned inward. He visualized himself already serving the client. He imagined conversations, brainstormed ideas, felt gratitude for a success that hadn't yet appeared. Then he let it go. Weeks later, they met. By chance, in a swimming pool. And the deal was struck. That's the quiet power of radiation. It is not about manipulation or forcing outcomes. It's about becoming the person who naturally attracts the outcome. It's about living in the frequency of the life you desire. Not someday, but now. Of course, this law cuts both ways. If you dwell on hardship, gossip about lack, or expect the worst, that's exactly what you attract. People often wonder why their lives feel stuck, why they can't break through. The answer is often internal. They are unconsciously radiating fear, doubt, resentment, or worse, apathy. And the universe responds in kind. To work this law, you must become deliberate. Radiate love, and love will find you. Radiate confidence, and success will seek you out. Radiate clarity, and new paths will open. Ponder tells the story of a woman who wanted to get married. She was told to declare, "Divine love, expressing through me, now draws to me all that is needed to make me happy and complete." But instead of genuinely radiating love and trust, she tried to force results. Her actions, constant phone calls, urgent invitations, came from fear, not faith. Unsurprisingly, her efforts failed. The method didn't fail. Her reversal of it did. Contrast that with another woman, also alone, who decided to repeat the affirmation quietly while floating in a swimming pool. Within moments, a man began speaking to her. That man would become her husband. That is not magic. That is alignment. Every great manifestation begins as a quiet internal shift. You don't have to announce it. You don't have to convince anyone. The law of radiation and attraction begins with a single thought and expands into experience. It begins with faith. What you hold in mind, with feeling, forms the blueprint of your life. That's why you must guard your thoughts. Not with fear, but with discernment. Just as you wouldn't feed your body with junk every day, don't feed your mind with fear, gossip, or criticism. Fill it with vision, with confidence, with love. And most importantly, act as if the good you seek is already yours. When you sit down to plan, do it with expectation. When you pray, do it with gratitude. When you walk into a room, do it with calm assurance. Prosperity doesn't chase people. It flows to those who already claim it mentally and emotionally. Your mind is the link between the invisible and visible. It is the bridge between desire and result. And the bridge is built through repetition, focus, and faith. So choose what you will radiate today. It is not something the world controls. It is entirely in your hands. And when in doubt, remember, the law is working. Whether you use it consciously or not, better to use it well. Chapter 3. The Vacuum and Creative Laws of Prosperity. Sometimes the greatest obstacle to receiving more is not a lack of resources, but a lack of space. The universe is abundant, always ready to offer more. But it waits for us to make room. This is the essence of the vacuum law of prosperity. A law as powerful as it is counterintuitive. In order to receive, we must first release. Catherine Ponder explains that when people think positively, visualize diligently, and yet still experience blocks, it's often because they haven't formed a vacuum. They are still holding on to what no longer serves them. Physically, mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually. They have not made room for the new. Nature abhors a vacuum. In life, this means that once we let go of what we don't want, we create a space that the universe rushes to fill. That might mean clearing your closet, ending a toxic friendship, or even releasing outdated beliefs. But the principle remains. You must release the lesser to make way for the greater. One couple, moving into a new home, chose not to bring the old furniture they didn't love. They gave it away and left entire rooms empty. Instead of feeling deprived, they visualized new, beautiful furnishings that matched their new vision of life. For a time, nothing happened. But eventually, an opportunity arose at the husband's workplace that allowed them to earn exactly the kind of furnishings they had imagined. The vacuum worked. Another man, trying to sell his house for months without luck, realized he hadn't mentally let go. So he sat quietly and visualized each room as already empty. He pictured moving boxes, imagined calling the movers, and saw himself in a new place. Within days, a buyer appeared, offering not only a full payment, but also a strong down payment. The space he made, both mentally and emotionally, opened the way for the physical result. This law applies to health as well. A businessman, sick for weeks, despite the best medical care, began to explore his own resistance to recovery. He realized he was clinging to habits, thoughts, and stress patterns that were blocking his healing. As he began to let go, not just of worry, but of self-pity and old grudges, his health started to return. Forming a vacuum isn't just about things or money. It is about aligning your environment and energy with your desired outcome. It's about shedding clutter, physical, emotional, and mental. Only then can the good that is waiting for you begin to flow freely. This letting go process can be emotional. You might feel fear. You might doubt whether something better will come. But the universe never leaves a vacuum unfilled. You will receive. That is the law. From this law of release, we move into the next great prosperity principle, the creative law of prosperity. Where the vacuum law teaches us to make space, the creative law teaches us how to fill it, with vision, imagination, and intention. Every success story, every invention, every breakthrough began as an idea. Ponder reminds us that your mind is a creative force. The images you hold and the feelings you nurture are not idle. They are the blueprints of what you are building. Many people are passive thinkers. They let worry, doubt, and negativity occupy their mental space. But those who succeed understand that the mind is a tool, not a trap. They use it to shape the life they want, not just in theory, but in practical reality. It begins with clarity. To use the creative law, you must decide what you want. Be specific. Imagine it clearly. Speak it aloud. Feel the joy of already having it. Do not worry about the how. Your job is to hold the vision and trust the process. Ponder tells the story of a woman who longed for a better job. Instead of sending out endless resumes, she first visualized herself in a position that fulfilled her. She imagined walking into the office, interacting with co-workers, receiving a paycheck. Every day she focused on that image. Within weeks, she was offered a role that matched her vision perfectly. Through an unexpected contact, another man who had suffered a financial setback used the creative law to restore his fortune. He refused to focus on loss. Instead, he spent time each day visualizing wealth returning to him. He imagined his accounts full, his business thriving, and himself relaxed and confident. Within months, new deals emerged, and his finances were stronger than ever. The power lies in mental consistency. You cannot build abundance with a scattered mind. You must train your thoughts as a gardener tends his soil, daily, attentively, and with faith that what you plant will grow. If you sow worry, you will reap stress. If you sow confidence, you will harvest opportunity. This is not about ignoring reality. It's about building a new one from within. One woman wanted to move into a beautiful apartment, but had no funds. She didn't argue with herself. She simply began decorating that apartment in her mind, choosing curtains, arranging furniture, picturing sunlight on the floor. Soon, a friend referred her to an opportunity that provided housing, fully covered, in the exact neighborhood she had envisioned. Your imagination is not fantasy. It is your creative laboratory. What you dwell upon, you draw toward you. The universe does not respond to confusion or hesitation. It responds to focus and faith. It responds to energy. And the clearer and more joyful your mental pictures, the faster they become your reality. These laws, the vacuum and the creative, are twin engines of prosperity. One clears the path, the other builds the road. Together, They carry you toward a life that reflects your highest desires. So begin now. Ask yourself, what must I release? What no longer belongs in the life I am building? Let it go with trust. Then ask, what do I wish to create? What image fills me with joy and peace? Hold that image close. Do not be passive. Life is not happening to you. Life is responding through you. As you empty out what no longer serves, and as you fill your mind with radiant, joyful thoughts, abundance will meet you at every turn. This is not just a possibility, it is a law. Chapter 4. The Imaging and Command Laws of Prosperity. In the infinite workshop of the human mind lies one of the greatest tools for creating a new life: imagination. The world teaches us to focus on facts, figures, and logic. But Catherine Ponder reminds us that imagination is not a child's toy. It is the architect of reality. This is the imaging law of prosperity. Simply put, what you vividly and consistently imagine with faith and emotion will begin to take form in your world. The universe operates on pictures. Not just pictures you see with your eyes, but the ones you hold in your heart. Thoughts are powerful, but images are magnetic. They give structure to your desire. They carve space in your consciousness. When you mentally rehearse success, health, wealth, or love, you are rehearsing for your future. Think of the mind like a movie projector. The images you play determine the scene you live in. If you replay lack, struggle, and fear, those will be the actors on your stage. But if you project confidence, wealth, harmony, your world begins to cast them into reality. One man, stuck in a financial rut, began to visualize himself succeeding. Not just abstract success, but details. He saw himself at work, closing deals, shaking hands, smiling with fulfillment. Each morning, he mentally stepped into that image. Within weeks, the opportunities arrived. Another woman envisioned herself in the home of her dreams. She imagined walking through it, furnishing it, cooking in the kitchen. At the time, she had no money for a move. But soon, an unexpected inheritance allowed her to relocate into a house almost identical to her vision. This law does not work through force or frantic effort. It works through clarity and feeling. You must believe what you imagine, not with tension, but with trust. The clearer the image and the deeper the feeling, the faster the manifestation. And that's where the second law of this section comes into play. The law of command. If the imaging law governs your inner blueprint, the command law activates it in the outer world. The words you speak are not neutral. They are commands issued to your subconscious and to the universe itself. When you speak with faith, conviction, and authority, you set forces in motion. Too often people curse their own prosperity with careless language. They say things like, "I can't afford that," or "nothing good ever happens to me." And then they wonder why life doesn't change. These aren't just statements, they are decrees, and your life obeys your decrees. But the good news is that you can reverse this pattern immediately. Begin by speaking what you desire, not what you fear. Say, "Money flows to me easily. I am attracting the right people and opportunities. My income is constantly increasing." Speak it until you believe it. And when you believe it, you'll begin to see it. Catherine Ponder shares that some people have healed their lives simply by changing their vocabulary. Instead of talking about illness, they spoke of vitality. Instead of worrying about bills, they declared abundance. It wasn't magic. It was the realignment of thought and word. One businessman, deeply in debt, was encouraged to stop complaining about his losses. Instead, he was told to say each morning, "I am a success in all I do. Divine ideas direct me. Everything I touch prospers." Within months, new clients appeared, contracts were signed, and the tide turned. This is not about blind positivity. It is about commanding your circumstances instead of reacting to them. You were not born to be at the mercy of life. You were born to co-create it. To activate the law of command, follow these steps. 1. Clarify what you want. Be specific. 2. Write down a powerful affirmation that states it in the present tense. 3. Repeat it aloud, preferably daily, calmly, confidently, and expectantly. It may feel strange at first. You may feel like you're lying to yourself. That's okay. Keep going. The goal is not to convince your ego. It's to reprogram your subconscious, which is always listening. Combine this with visualization and you become unstoppable. When your mind sees it and your voice declares it, your life begins to align with it. And yes, action is important. These laws are not a substitute for work, but they make work effective. When your imagination and your language are aligned with your goal, the outer steps become clearer and smoother. You no longer chase success. You become a magnet for it. It's worth noting that these laws also apply to relationships, health, creativity, and more. Speak peace over your family. See harmony in your home. Declare healing over your body. Visualize and speak what you want to live. And perhaps most importantly, speak forgiveness. Ponder tells the story of a man riddled with illness, nothing helping him recover. One night, racked with fever, he asked God what he needed to release. The answer came swiftly. A grudge he'd been holding onto. He had wished harm on someone who had wronged him years ago. From his sickbed, he began to speak words of forgiveness. "I release you. I forgive you. I wish you peace." That night, he slept soundly for the first time in weeks. The next day, his fever broke. His body began to heal. Forgiveness forms one of the deepest vacuums for new life to enter. It is a declaration that you no longer wish to hold poison in your heart. It is a command for peace. And when peace enters, prosperity follows. Another woman, locked in a bitter legal battle with a former friend, was told by a prayer group that the only way to resolve it was through forgiveness. She was shocked. She didn't want to forgive. She wanted to win. But after resisting, she finally whispered, "God, I can't forgive him. But if you can, do it through me." That was all it took. Days later, the man reached out. Not to talk about the case, but to reconnect. They settled amicably. When you speak peace, you draw peace. When you command abundance, you prepare your life to hold it. When you imagine success and declare it with conviction, the universe says yes. So don't wait for the world to change. Begin changing it within. Visualize clearly. Speak boldly. And walk confidently. Because your mind is the canvas, your words are the brush, and your life is the masterpiece. Chapter 5. The Law of Increase and Attitudes Toward Money. One of the most subtle yet powerful prosperity laws is the law of increase. Most people seek more. More money, more joy, more peace. But few realize that increase is not something you chase. It's something you attract through appreciation. Catherine Ponder reveals that the first step to increase is not earning more but praising more. Praise is magnetic. Gratitude is expansive. When you give thanks and celebrate what you already have, you send out a signal that you are ready for more. It's a spiritual acknowledgement that what you have is good, and that good is multiplying. The law of increase tells us that what you praise increases. This applies to relationships, money, health, and opportunity. The more you bless your current conditions, the more those conditions begin to reflect the energy of abundance. You don't have to love your current situation to bless it. You simply need to recognize its potential and give thanks in advance for its growth. One woman used this law to transform her marriage. Her husband was drinking heavily and on the verge of losing his job. She was exhausted and frustrated. But rather than continuing to criticize or complain, she chose to practice daily forgiveness and praise. She mentally released the resentment she had stored over the years, and each day she spent time blessing her husband, affirming his goodness, picturing him sober, focused, and successful. Within weeks, his drinking stopped. He began excelling at work. Their life stabilized, and not long after, she was able to leave her job and move with him into a beautiful new home. This wasn't luck. It was alignment. When you stop fighting with the reality you don't like and begin praising the good you wish to experience, you create space for transformation. Another dimension of this law is learning to release with joy. Increase cannot enter a life that is mentally clinging to the past. Whether it's outdated clothes, old furniture, or painful memories, what you do not release cannot be replaced. Nature abhors a vacuum, and it rewards the boldness of surrender. Ponder shares how she gave away most of her clothes in faith that better ones would come. At first, nothing happened, but she realized that although she had physically given them away, she was still mentally attached. She would think things like, "If I had that jacket I gave away, I'd wear it today." That small act of mental clinging blocked the flow. Once she deliberately released those items in her mind, blessing them and letting them go, new clothes arrived unexpectedly. A friend, unaware of her need, came forward with a gift of money specifically to buy clothing. The law of increase responds to a heart that is open and expectant, not fearful or hoarding. This ties directly to your attitude toward money. The second theme of this section. Money is energy, and like all energy, it responds to your thoughts, beliefs, and emotions. Most people carry a strange contradiction in their relationship to money. They want more of it, but they secretly believe it's bad, dirty, or dangerous. If you see money as a source of evil or stress, it will avoid you. But if you see it as a neutral, divine tool for expressing good, it will begin to find you more often. The first step to developing a prosperous money consciousness is to release any guilt or fear associated with wealth. Ponder emphasizes that money is not something you worship, but it is something you should respect. If you see it as an instrument for good, for freedom, for creativity, and generosity, then you align yourself with it in a healthy way. Think of money as your employee, not your master. It works for you. Start by blessing the money you currently have, no matter how little. Handle it with care. Organize it. Speak kindly about it. Say things like, "Money is divine substance, and it is always flowing to me. I use money wisely, and it blesses everyone it touches. I am grateful for the supply that constantly circulates through my life." Avoid complaining about lack. Avoid mocking those who have wealth. The energy of sarcasm and resentment cuts off your own supply. Instead, celebrate abundance wherever you see it. Let it inspire you, not shame you. There's a story about a man who needed more income but had little hope in sight. He was told to speak the words, "Everything and everybody prospers me now." He said it quietly, not even fully believing it, but with a willingness to try. Within hours, the phone began to ring. Business came in from unexpected places. Another man, a watch repair technician, was struggling to get customers. One day on the bus, he remembered the law of increase. He sat silently, repeating the same phrase, "Everything and everybody prospers me now." That week, his shop was flooded with work, enough to keep him busy for weeks. The law works if you work it. You don't need to be loud or showy. You just need to be clear and consistent. Praise what you have. Release what you no longer need. Speak increase. Expect increase. And treat money as a divine servant, ready to obey your highest intentions. Here's a short prosperity practice. You can begin today. 1. Bless everything in your wallet or bank account. Give thanks for it, no matter how small. 2. Affirm your divine right to supply. Say aloud, "I am now in the flow of divine abundance." 3. Give joyfully when inspired. Share, donate, or gift, even something small. Giving multiplies receiving. 4. Visualize your money circulating. See it doing good in the world. Building, blessing, supporting life. Remember, you're not a victim of financial conditions. You're a creator. And when your heart is full of praise, your hands cannot stay empty for long. Chapter 6. Work. A mighty channel for prosperity and financial independence can be yours. We often hear the phrase, "just doing my job," spoken with fatigue, resignation, or indifference. But what if your work, no matter how small, routine, or underpaid, was actually one of the most powerful spiritual channels for prosperity in your life? In this section, Catherine Ponder brings a profound truth into focus. Work is not a burden. It's a blessing. It is a sacred flow through which prosperity manifests. When you approach your labor, business, service, or creativity with the energy of joy, intention, and excellence, it becomes magnetic. The attitude you bring to your work determines the results it returns. Work, when viewed rightly, is not just about earning. It's about channeling your divine gifts into tangible value. It's a bridge between inner faith and outer demonstration. One housewife gave generously from her grocery money to improve her church. Most people would have seen that as reckless, but she gave with joy and expectation, not as a sacrifice, but as a demonstration of faith. That seed triggered a cascade of blessings. New sources of income, the gift of a car, even a housekeeper. Things she never imagined would be hers. Why? Because she gave with the spirit of abundance, not fear. This same principle applies to work. Don't just show up with purpose. Don't just complete tasks. Complete them with intention and enthusiasm. Even if the results aren't immediate, they are accumulating. Every thought, every act, every choice made in faith is a spiritual investment. Ponder tells us, when it seems like you're running out, don't shrink back. That is the moment to look up, to affirm boldly, to give from what you have, even if it feels like you're lost. That is how you invoke the vacuum law, releasing the old or limited in order to make room for the new and expanded. When you withhold, when you grip tightly to the little you have, you affirm lack. But when you release, even if it's just a few dollars toward a bill or an act of generosity, You activate flow. You turn static money into moving energy. You show the universe, I trust in greater supply. Take your checkbook or wallet into your hands and speak to it. Say, you are filled with divine substance. You are now multiplying in expected and unexpected ways. This is not delusion, it's alignment. When you treat your current supply with faith and gratitude, even if it's small, you send a powerful signal that you are ready for more. Ponder shares a personal story of cleaning out her closet and giving clothes to her sister. At first, she was proud of the gesture, but weeks passed and no new clothes came. Then she realized the truth. She hadn't truly let go. She was still mentally attached, thinking about what she could have worn if she hadn't given those items away. That mental clinging blocked the flow. The moment she fully released, blessing each item and declaring, I let you go. New clothes came, even from unexpected sources. Friends sent her items. Others gifted money just because. The lesson was clear. True giving includes true release. If you give but stay mentally attached, no vacuum is formed. And if there's no vacuum, there's no room for increase. This brings us to the next powerful truth. Financial independence is not about having millions in the bank. It's about mastering the laws of supply. Most people think financial freedom is some far-off, impossible dream. But Ponder insists it begins not with a paycheck, but with a mindset. It starts with how you treat what you already have. Are you grateful for every dollar? Do you give freely when inspired? Do you believe supply can come from more than just your job? You must begin to see that you are never limited to one source. Your job, your clients, your current income stream. These are channels, not sources. Your real source is divine substance, flowing to you in infinite ways. The moment you shift from seeing money as something scarce and hard-earned to seeing it as something abundant and spiritually available, your entire world begins to change. And yes, this includes debt. If you're burdened by loans or financial obligations, you don't have to panic or feel ashamed. Instead, declare, I now pay all my debts joyfully and in divine order. Then bless each creditor. See the debt disappearing. Visualize money flowing easily toward every account. And more than anything, stop feeding it with fear. Fear freezes flow. One of the boldest steps toward financial independence is to trust that divine substance knows no limits. Even when your hands feel empty, your spiritual account is always full. If your work is not bringing the returns you desire, ask yourself, do I approach it with joy and faith? Do I see it as a spiritual channel or just a job? Have I created a vacuum for greater prosperity? Am I mentally prepared for more or still clinging to what's safe? True wealth is not about control. It's about trust. It's about knowing that as you give, serve, release, and expand in consciousness, supply must meet you. So bless your work today, no matter how humble. Give thanks for it. Imagine it expanding and declare boldly, my work is a mighty channel for prosperity. I give richly and I receive richly. I expect increase in every direction of my life. That is how you build a foundation for financial independence. Not in fear, but in faith. Chapter 7. The Laws of Love and Prayer in Prosperity. If there is one universal force that underlies all forms of abundance and joy, it is love. Not merely romantic love or sentimental affection, but the expansive, inclusive, life-giving force that says, I see good I expect good, I give good. Catherine Ponder teaches that the law of love is one of the highest, most powerful channels for prosperity. Why? Because love dissolves tension. It clears away resentment. It removes the inner blocks that prevent good from flowing into our lives. Where fear contracts, love expands. To prosper through love is to look at life, people, and circumstances through a lens of wholeness and value. You don't wait until someone earns your approval. You bless them now. You don't hold back your own self-worth until someone validates it. You claim it now. Ponder shares how love, even when silently expressed, transforms not just your mood, but your outer world. One woman found her troubled marriage restored, not through fighting or pleading, but by practicing quiet daily forgiveness and blessing her husband in her thoughts. Another woman saw long-standing financial and legal disputes dissolve peacefully, simply by forgiving someone she swore she never could. You don't always have to speak it aloud. Love radiated inwardly is just as powerful. You can silently declare, I behold you with the eyes of love. I glory in your success, prosperity, and complete good. As you do, something remarkable happens. You become a clearer channel for your own good. Hatred and resentment act like spiritual dams. They block supply. They tighten your energy. But when you forgive and bless, even if only mentally, you make room for blessings to move again. The law of love also means loving yourself enough to release what no longer serves you. To treat yourself with respect, even when the outer world hasn't caught up yet. That includes the way you dress, the way you speak to yourself, and the way you show up in the world. If you're facing financial struggle, ask, am I still clinging to unforgiveness? Am I judging myself harshly? Am I imagining others with jealousy or criticism? Then choose to love instead. Speak blessings instead. Forgive, even if the other person doesn't know it. Ponder describes love as magnetic, a creative current that draws your highest good towards you, even when you don't know what the good looks like yet. When you live in a state of loving expectancy, good things must come. This flows seamlessly into the next powerful force in your prosperity journey, prayer. The law of prayer is not about begging or bargaining with a reluctant God. It is about aligning your mind with divine truth. It is focused thinking, creative mental clarity, and above all, it is faith in action. Prayer is your conversation with the infinite. And when approached rightly, it becomes the foundation for miracles. Ponder teaches that effective prosperity prayer has 3 parts. 1. Write down your desires. Clarity is magnetic. When you know what you want, you form a blueprint for it. 2. Visualize the outcome. Feel the joy of already receiving. Picture it as done. 3. Speak affirmations. Declare your good into being. This isn't a passive ritual. This is active creation. Prayer is not a backup plan, it's a builder's plan. And like any builder, you must follow the blueprint with precision and belief. Don't waver, don't pray one thing and worry another. Prayer is the law of cause in motion. And your outer world is its effect. One businessman faced deep financial pressure. Instead of panicking, he turned to prayer. Each morning he would read his affirmations, visualize money flowing in and give thanks. He praised every tiny payment that came his way. Slowly then quickly, things turned. Clients returned, debts were paid, and confidence was restored. Another woman, hoping to move into a new home, used prayer to guide her every step. She didn't simply say, "God, help me move." She imagined the layout. She affirmed, "Divine love prepares the perfect place for me now." Weeks later, she found a rental that fit her vision exactly. And the landlord offered her lower rent than expected. These are not coincidences. These are the results of clear, loving, faith-filled thought. If you want prayer to work, it must be consistent. Ponder recommends dedicating time daily. Just 10 or 15 minutes. To sit quietly, affirm your good, and visualize it. Make it a sacred practice, not a last resort. Here are a few prosperity affirmations to use during your prayer time. Divine substance is meeting every need. I am now in the flow of rich supply. New channels of income are opening to me now. Everything I touch prospers. When combined with love, forgiveness, and joyful expectancy, these affirmations are unstoppable. But remember, your outer results often mirror your inner tone. If you pray for wealth but carry guilt about having money, if you pray for success but resent others who have it, if you pray for love but secretly feel unworthy, your prayer becomes conflicted. That's why the law of love must be practiced with the law of prayer. Love purifies the channel. Prayer activates the process. Together, they form a dynamic engine of prosperity. So whether you are facing a challenge, seeking growth, or simply wishing to move into your next chapter, start with love. Begin with forgiveness. Let go of resentment. Speak blessings. Then take your desires into prayer. Boldly, clearly, and consistently. You are not separate from divine supply. You are a living expression of it. And when you align with love and speak your word with power, the universe responds. Not someday, but now. Chapter 8. Self-confidence and the genius powers of prosperity. It's easy to see prosperity as something that lies outside of ourselves, something to chase, something to earn, something we're lucky to stumble upon. But Catherine Ponder reveals a far more empowering truth. Prosperity is not outside you. It comes from within, specifically from your ability to claim it boldly and direct it confidently. This is where the law of self-confidence comes in. Self-confidence isn't just about standing tall or speaking clearly. It is the firm belief that you are worthy of success and fully capable of creating it. It's the unshakable knowing that your desires are not random. They are divine impulses seeking expression through you. In fact, strong desire is the first sign of coming success. Many people downplay their desires. They tell themselves, "I shouldn't want too much," or "This is probably impossible anyway." But Ponder turns that idea upside down. She teaches that when you desire something deeply, and you're willing to act on it, that desire becomes a spiritual engine. Desire is creative energy. It is life calling you forward. And the more you align with it, the more life responds with opportunity. The challenge, Ponder explains, is that most people have vague or watered down desires. They want something better or more money. But they don't define what that really means. The mind cannot create clear results from fuzzy images. It requires definiteness. That's why the first practical step in the law of self-confidence is to write down your desires. Yes, literally. On paper. List what you want. Be bold. Be specific. Don't worry about how it will happen. Just write what you truly want. As you do, your subconscious begins to work with you. The universe begins to organize itself around your clarity. Ponder tells the story of a lawyer she once worked with. defeated in the political race, but not broken. Instead of sulking, he sat down and made a new plan. He wrote out his goals: to expand his law firm, hire specific kinds of attorneys, and grow his income steadily over 5 years. At the time, it seemed ambitious. But over the following months and years, every one of those goals was fulfilled. Why? Because he had a clear mental blueprint. He moved with confidence. And he backed that confidence with action. This clarity doesn't just come from surface-level thought. It comes from tuning in to something even deeper. What Ponder calls your genius, powers of prosperity. Everyone has genius within them. Not the kind defined by IQ or talent, but by intuition, insight, and spiritual connection. Your genius is the part of you that already knows what to do next. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It gives you nudges, ideas, hunches. And the more you trust it, the more it shows up. The secret is this: genius is not rare, it's just rarely used. To activate your genius, begin by quieting your external noise. Sit in silence. Write in a journal. Ask clear questions and listen for the answers. Not from fear, but from faith. You can also speak to your subconscious with affirmations like, "Divine intelligence guides me now." Ideas of wealth, opportunity, and success are flowing to me easily. I confidently follow the inner voice that leads me to abundance. This isn't mystical fluff. It's practical spirituality. The most successful people often credit their success to following their gut, trusting a dream, or taking an inspired leap. They may not call it genius or prosperity consciousness, but that's exactly what it is. The more confident you are in your inner wisdom, the less you'll need to lean on external approval. That's another hallmark of prosperity: freedom from fear and doubt. Ponder teaches that many people fail to prosper simply because they don't trust themselves. They question every move. They wait for permission. They second-guess even the clearest signs. And in doing so, they cancel out their own prayers. But those who prosper move as if it's already done. They act as if the money is already on the way, as if the opportunity is already theirs, as if the answer is already unfolding. This confidence sends a message to the universe: I am ready, I am willing, I believe. And the universe responds with a resounding yes. So how can you build this kind of self-confidence? Start with daily practice. Ponder suggests simple, powerful actions. 1. Write down your goals. Keep them visible. Revisit them often. 2. Affirm your worth. Speak to yourself like someone you deeply believe in. 3. Visualize your success. Not someday, but now. Feel it. Live it. 4. Act boldly. Even a small step taken in faith builds momentum. And most importantly, don't suppress your dreams. Those deep desires are not random. They are divine. When you suppress them, you cut off your life force. But when you honor them, you align with the very power that created you. You do not need to be perfect. You simply need to be willing. Willing to believe. Willing to step forward. Willing to trust your inner genius. When you live this way, prosperity becomes natural. Not a distant hope, but a daily experience. You're not here to live small. You are here to express greatness. Let your confidence be the doorway. Let your genius be your guide. And let your prosperity unfold in the most beautiful and effortless ways. Because you finally dared to trust yourself. Chapter 9. Persistence and Freedom from Indebtedness. In the journey toward prosperity, Some people sprint ahead in bursts of excitement, only to stop short when results don't come immediately. Others drift, unsure of their direction, waiting for life to deliver without much effort. But Catherine Ponder reveals a deeper, lasting truth. Prosperity is not for the impatient. It is for the persistent. The law of persistence is a cornerstone of prosperous living. It teaches that what you hold in mind with faith, clarity, and daily action will eventually manifest. If you do not quit, most people fail not because they are incapable, but because they give up too soon. They try one affirmation, write one goal, or make one attempt, and when nothing shifts right away, they assume it didn't work. But as Ponder reminds us, life responds to steady inner pressure, not occasional interest. Persistence means sticking with your vision even when the results are invisible. It means showing up to your prayer time, your affirmations, your inner work, especially when outer appearances seem bleak. Ponder shares story after story of people who turned their lives around through focused, ongoing desire. One businessman overcame deep legal entanglements, not through confrontation, but by writing down his desire, blessing the situation daily, and affirming divine resolution. Eventually, the issue resolved smoothly and in his favor. His consistent application of prosperity principles had cleared the path. Another group of business students during a recession took part in an experiment. Each of them wrote down their goals, financial, personal, and professional, 6 months in advance. They reviewed and revised their lists weekly. They didn't treat their desires as random wishes, but as sacred blueprints. And each week they came together to declare, "I am the rich child of a loving Father. All that the Father has is mine to share and experience. Divine intelligence is showing me how to claim my good. My rich blessings come to me now." It wasn't long before real results began to unfold. New clients, unexpected raises, financial opportunities from surprising sources. Not because of luck, but because of faithful repetition, deliberate clarity, and unwavering expectation. This is the essence of persistence. Not grinding in fear, but standing tall in faith. But what if you feel completely blocked, especially by something as heavy as debt? That's where the freedom from indebtedness principle comes in. Ponder emphasizes that no condition, no matter how financially tangled, is beyond transformation. But you must stop seeing debt as permanent. You must stop giving it power. Too many people talk about debt constantly. They obsess over it, complain about it, fear it. And in doing so, they feed it. What you fear, you fuel. The only way to reduce debt is to see yourself as already free from it. Mentally, spiritually, emotionally. Before it clears in reality, Ponder teaches a powerful method. Begin by blessing your debts. That's right. Bless them. Each bill you receive, instead of panicking, say, "I now bless this bill and give thanks for the divine substance that pays it fully and easily." This might feel strange at first, but what it does is change the energy around your finances. Instead of seeing money as a problem, you begin seeing it as a servant. You stop seeing creditors as enemies and start seeing them as opportunities for demonstration. Use affirmations like, "I now pay all my debts joyfully and in divine order. Every financial obligation is met with ease and grace. Divine substance is now freeing me from every form of lack." This is not denial. It's spiritual defiance of limitation. It's standing in your identity as a child of a loving, abundant source. Ponder reminds us that indebtedness is a form of spiritual bondage, but it is not your natural state. Your true identity is one of freedom, supply, overflow. But to return to that state, you must let go of fear and start acting from faith. That might mean paying what you can now, without delay or resentment. Refusing to speak lack, even when it feels tempting. Continuing to tithe or give, even in small amounts. Declaring abundance even before it arrives. Most of all, it means shifting from panic to peace. Because peace is the atmosphere in which prosperity grows. Sometimes, the very act of giving in the midst of lack is what unlocks the flow. One woman, with barely enough to cover groceries, chose to tithe to her church instead. Within days, a long-forgotten payment came in the mail. Another person, drowning in credit card debt, began thanking God daily for freedom. Over time, he was offered a well-paying freelance contract that cleared every account. You cannot solve debt with the same energy that created it. You must rise higher, speak higher, think higher, and act as though you are already debt-free, even while taking practical steps toward it. And remember, persistence is the path. Not just in goal setting, not just in giving, but in everything. If you affirm your wealth today, but complain about lack tomorrow, you cancel the energy. But if you affirm it today, tomorrow, and the next day, regardless of appearances, you will see results, not by accident, but by law. So ask yourself, what do I desire most? Am I willing to hold that vision daily? Am I willing to let go of fear, doubt, and past failures? Am I willing to act now with what I have in faith? If so, then declare it. Write it, speak it, and walk in it. You are not your debt. You are not your delay. You are not your past mistakes. You are a child of divine substance, born for freedom, designed for prosperity, and called to abundance. And through love, prayer, persistence, and clarity, you will rise into it, step by step. Chapter 10. Health, Clear Thinking, and Final Reflections on Prosperity. The pursuit of prosperity isn't limited to dollars, homes, or promotions. It's about a life that functions well from the inside out. It's about harmony in the mind, vitality in the body, and alignment in the soul. Catherine Ponder teaches that true prosperity includes health and clear thinking. Because without these, even riches can feel empty. Your body responds to your beliefs. Your cells listen to your thoughts. The tension you carry, the emotions you suppress, and the attitudes you repeat all show up in your physical health. So what does this mean? It means that when you align your thinking with truth, peace, and love, your body reflects that balance. If your health is out of alignment, Ponder suggests you ask yourself, what have I been holding on to? Who have I not forgiven? What fear am I rehearsing in my mind every day? Often physical pain or disease is a signal, not just of biology, but of belief. And the answer isn't always a pill or a procedure. Sometimes it's a prayer, a release, a change of mind. One businessman, ill and growing weaker despite professional medical care, finally turned inward. In prayer, he asked what needed to be released. He was shown an old grudge, a deep resentment he had never dealt with. That night, in bed with fever, he forgave. He let go, and he declared, I fully and freely forgive you. I release you. I wish you well. The next morning, the fever had broken. The poison had lifted, and healing began. Forgiveness heals. Clarity heals. Love heals. In the same way, confused thinking clutters your life. You might desire good health or financial growth, but if your thoughts are chaotic, doubting 1 minute and affirming the next, you cancel your own efforts. That's why clear thinking is essential to prosperity. This is where the final reflection in Ponder's book becomes both deeply spiritual and profoundly practical. She urges us to become honest with ourselves. Don't suppress your true desires. Don't water them down. Don't write goals that sound acceptable to others. Instead, be bold enough to tell the truth, to yourself and to the divine. That honesty forms a channel through which your good can flow. One woman wrote a letter to God at the start of the year. She listed her true, heartfelt desires: a new home, a loving marriage, a better job. She placed the letter in her Bible and forgot about it. By year's end, every major item had manifested. Why? Because she had been clear, bold, and honest. Another woman did the same, but wrote only superficial wishes. She didn't acknowledge what she really wanted, fearing it wasn't spiritual enough. Nothing came from her letter. Why? Because she had blocked the very energy of creation through inauthenticity. God or divine substance or universal intelligence cannot work with dishonesty, not because it punishes, but because it respects your freedom. If you want good, you must be willing to name it. If you're not sure what you want yet, start with what you don't want. Write it down. Name it. Release it. As you clear that space, your deeper, truer desires will rise to the surface. Ponder encourages making a daily list of your desires, not because the universe is forgetful, but because you are training your own mind. Writing your desires down helps focus your energy. It keeps you in a state of expectancy. It reminds you that you are not waiting for life to hand you something. You are co-creating your experience. One modeling school director played a recording for her students that instructed them to write specific goals each day. The result? Her students landed ideal jobs in fashion, television, and media. Not by accident, but by clarity plus repetition plus belief. What we consistently think, we become. What we clearly ask for, we are guided toward. And what we honestly desire, we are spiritually authorized to receive. The final message of Ponder's book is simple, yet profound. You are the channel. You are the magnet. You are the point of power. There is no mystery around prosperity once you understand how to think in harmony with it. Once you clear the clutter of fear, guilt, resentment, and confusion, life begins to flow. If you take only one thing from this entire journey, let it be this. Prosperity is not something you earn. It's something you accept. You don't force it. You allow it. You don't chase it. You become it. You begin where you are, with your thoughts, your words, your actions, and you grow, day by day, into the prosperous, healthy, radiant life that was always meant for you. So now, as you close this chapter, consider the following final affirmations. I am one with the abundance of the universe. Every part of my life now reflects divine order and plenty. I live in health, harmony, and joyous supply. I now claim my inheritance of good. Let these words anchor you. Let this truth guide you. And let this journey of the dynamic laws of prosperity be the start, not the end, of your greatest transformation. You are rich in spirit. You are supported by love. And your good is on its way, because you are now ready to receive it. Thank you for listening.